Hello, and welcome to Scuttlebutt, the War Movie Review Podcast. We're happy to have you with us as we take a look at films from the dawn of cinema to today. We aim to provide a raw and unapologetic review of each film's cinematography, historical accuracy, and delivery. In the process of analysis, certain details will be revealed. These spoilers are only divulged to ensure a fair assessment of each film. We journey to the Orient this week with Edward Zwick's 2003 epic, The Last Samurai. As always, we're joined by Mike B.
Hey, hey.
And Nate.
The first weeb.
So guys, what do you think?
Oh my god. That's how we're gonna start it. The first weeb.
The first weeb.
So, guys, what do you think?
Very historically accurate. Couldn't have done it better myself if I tried.
Well, I will start. I mean, it's an interesting film.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. I'd never seen it before, and I always kind of avoided it. Not because of... Well, I don't know. I was always just never like a real...
I thought you've seen it before.
No, I hadn't. I'd seen parts, but I'd never totally seen it.
Wow.
And to go back to our earlier episode on Behind Enemy Lines, you know, like this is one of the things they played all the time on like TNT.
Yeah.
And like Spike or now it's
Yeah.
on, but like, you know, just on
Spike,
TV growing
yeah.
up and everything.
Spike.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
they did spy it on Spike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After I watch, MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, I'm gonna go watch The Last Samurai.
The other Japanese show.
Oh God.
They were showing
Castle.
movies on Spike with the TNT watermark still for a while.
Yeah,
Remember
right?
that?
Yeah, that was
That's
great.
fucking great. Yep.
Followed by
Yep.
our marathon of cops. Fucking...
Yeah, Walker Texas Ranger had just
Oh
gotten
my
off the air.
God, right. No, so I had always just I don't know, just at the time I didn't have enough interest to watch it. But now I sat down and watched it, and it's a really good movie for what it is. You know,
Yep.
it's very well done. As far as historical accuracy, you know, it's an amalgamation of a lot of different things.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of different people. And it's funny, before I got into, this is gonna sound pompous, like filmmaking and stuff, I'd be like, that's fucking horrible, fucking you gotta stay to the book and history. But now as I write stories and I try to make things work, I understand why you have to have these types of, you know, lapses, or just you have to break some historical fact to make the narrative work. And I think this
Fiction based on history kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think this movie has just enough of each. Like, it's very well done, and you get enough of a story. I mean, it's not really the whole truth, but it's, for what it is, it's good. You know, and I'm not trying to this one's whatever, trying to be biased against the other films that we've been like, this isn't historically accurate, fuck you. But this one has a very interesting balance of what they're trying to tell, a really interesting story, but they're also trying to stay in the realm of, you know, history as much as they can. So yeah, no, I was very surprised by it. I thought I was gonna hate it, but then I was like, wow, this is a very respectable film.
A little note off of what you just said is that I don't think anywhere that it claimed to be based on a true story or based on historic facts or anything like that. Like a lot of other ones, the reason we usually rip apart a film that is completely fucked historically is because based on a true story, based on historic events, blah, 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 the names have been changed, and they're just so far off. They can't really say that. If you don't claim it to be based on a historical, one event or one person or whatever, that's fine. Historical fiction is fine in itself. That's not, that's why I don't think that, I don't think we generally rip on something.
As it normally is when they go off.
Exactly. I don't think we usually rip on something just for not being historically accurate if it doesn't claim to be. So that's just a little note there. So
true, but I'm just saying for how people can just degrade this film, because traditionally that's how I viewed it. I'm just like, oh, it's
sure,
fucking
yes,
whatever. But it's how times have changed, or at least for my own opinion. But no, I was very interested in it, and I think I'm much better for watching it after the fact. So
yeah, it's a really good watch, I think. I mean, some people find it boring because it's a lot of very important and slow moving dialogue, but it's relevant. It has to be.
I did walk away with it's too long. That was one of the things that I thought of. I feel like it could have been condensed, but we'll get into that a little later.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that point. But what about you, Nate?
Well, if I remember correctly, I saw this in theaters in 2003. And I really liked it then. Now, with me being 13 years old, it was like, hell yeah. Now being older, I still like it. I have more of a respect. I used to stay away from it for the exact same reasons that everyone else I think does. And then until like the last maybe 5 years, I think it was like 5 years ago, I went back and rewatched it and I liked it again. And I think it was because of the, the not pertaining to historical facts, but basing it off of historical events, but not saying it verbatim like this is based on true historical events. There is some take to think this is complete fiction. It has there are I'll go into it later, but I did a lot of research on this because I was always very curious of like, okay, like the events of the country of Japan, like what led to, there has to be some kind of historical event that led to westernization of Japan. So I researched heavily into that and did that, and we'll jump into that very soon. But all in all,
Perry.
yeah, but like going into the film as a whole, like I like this movie a lot. It is pure entertainment. It's also height of Tom Cruise just before he starts to do electrical attacks on Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah couch.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's that era of Tom Cruise. And I'm glad you got that reference, Brian.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That video comes up in like my feed at least once a year. Like,
I love
what
that
was the
video.
movie where I think it was a what was it? I can't remember the name. Not Mad TV, but Scary Movie or something where they made fun of that.
Yeah, Scary Movie.
Where
Yeah.
he kills Oprah.
Yeah. He like yeah. But like that.
Sure, it wasn't Molly's War.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Molly's War came 10 years before that, so obviously. But,
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm getting that mixed up. My bad.
anyway, we'll review that eventually.
Anyway.
Yeah,
It's still
eventually.
in production, so yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's 1993.
so going into it, it just was really it was really cool to go back into it and not have the stigma of like, oh, this obviously is like a fiction piece of shit. No, it's got everything that we had just talked about, where I think it's loosely based around big transitional events in Japan, but it doesn't really take from it's not trying to clone copy an exact period of history to then be like, okay, this is fucking wrong. This is fucking wrong. They took influence of certain characters and things that did happen in Japan.
Yeah.
But it's very loose, so it allows it to have its play within the realm, and so you can believe it and not be so like, eh. But yeah, I'll talk about that stuff later. But yeah, like it overall, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. It's a great entertainment movie, and it's a good, it's just a good movie all around. I love it. Just the characters, the character development. It kind of does what Dancing with Wolves does, except I feel like, it's a very similar movie, very similar kind of path, but it's not a clone copy of that. It's different. And I like it more than Dances with Wolves. So.
Oh, for sure. And it's like you're mentioning, it's very interesting to see how Japan was westernized. And it's very interesting because this movie is contradicting in a lot of ways to what Japan turned into, in the 20th century. And I've always been fascinated with the War in the Pacific, Second World War. And the more that I, want to know about the conflicts and everything, the more I research Japanese history and like just see where these things began and the lineage of it. And it's just the one thing I walked away from this is that it's funny because the events of the 1870s are the polar opposite of what happened 70 years later. It's like this movie is almost like, it's like Bushido is funny in the concept of this film because the grandparents of the generation that fought in the Second World War, wanted to westernize. They wanted to get rid of those traditions, but then they got grained back into Japanese society. So it's just kind of funny. It's like the hypocrisy of Bushido. Like we are a warrior culture, but 70 years ago, fucking you're using Gatling guns to kill samurai. Like, so it's just very interesting to see the path that Japan took to modernization, and it really 1945 and the events of the Second World War really start here, This is the Japanese empire building, and that's the arc that they have. So it's just very interesting to see how they got rid of it, but then they adopted it back into their culture. And they kind of do touch on that again at the end of it with the emperor and everything, how they were turning away from the West. But it's just a funny contrast, It's like, how does this lead to Bushido? How does throwing away your cultural traditions get there? It's like the Chinese Cultural Revolution in the 40s and everything, It's just like, get rid of everything and now it's back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very an interesting, study of culture as well, of just like how you can shed things for certain generations, but also bring them back for other ones. So I thought it was a very interesting thing just looking at Japanese history. This is before the really big events of like the Russian-Japanese War, Port Arthur, all of that. This is the very beginning of a medieval feudal nation, becoming modernized
Jump
in the
start.
Really
1870s
quickly.
too,
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
quickly.
Jump
150
starting.
years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it's within 3 generations. They
Yeah.
go from samurai to battleships built in England. That's incredible. It's, if you look at any other nation, their industrious build of an empire in such a short period of time, 70 years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I got so much information in my fucking brain. Is that normally the historical context for prelude, like the context for this movie, like before all this happens, is that Japan was 200 years of isolation, right?
Yep. Something
Almost
like that.
200 years of
It was
isolation.
a long time. Yep.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden the US just come in and go, you will now open up Japan to us or we will fucking take it by force. Wasn't that the ultimatum for that?
1854.
It was a little more diplomatic, but yeah, that was the idea.
Bluntly go about it. It's like, you will open up trade with us or we will then force you to open up trade with us.
Yes.
And so then they did that. And then Japan realizes that, hey, we want to embrace westernization, mainly of European technology and culture. And pretty much in 20 to 30 years, they take Dutch, German, American, French, British technology, culture, and influence. And within 30 years, they're jump started to almost being
fighting Russia, which is a world power at that point.
Which is incredible.
They had just also come out of, a more feudal kind of state in the 1860s and 70s. The 1870s is a really, 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 really important and overlooked at every given opportunity decade.
Right.
It's because not only is this when Japan starts modernizing and westernizing, look at Europe. Without the Franco-Prussian War, the First World War probably wouldn't have kicked off as hard and fast as it did, with Germany getting involved and then Russia and all that stuff. But that's a different topic. But the empires in Europe were also there was new empires being born with this new technology, this rapid advancement. Industrialization was the main component of it. And the 1870s, and the U.S. had already been trying that, and then they just kind of were already ahead of the game, and there was a lot of competition. Well, you get countries like Russia and Japan who have been doing things a certain way for centuries that are now, okay, well, these guys are way ahead of us. Maybe it's not so bad that we kind of try to keep up with their level, or they're just going to come in and wipe out everything that we've existed for all these centuries.
Right.
So... yeah, within 30 years, which is really not a long time.
Really fast, because you're going from feudal Japan to, what Brian said, 70 years, but then you maybe cut that in half of a huge influence of technology, culture, religion, everything kind of being just almost kind of force blown into the country very fast, very quickly. So you have this huge divide where you have... the samurai, which is the old cultural, old world. And then you have, the new world, the new, the emperor now has an army in fully, mobilized technology of the European world. So I was doing a lot of research, and a lot of the kind of things that are wrong with the movie mainly come with just people trying to, coming from Hollywood, mainly trying to make the samurai the underdogs, to really prove that point, bows and arrows, swords and everything. The one thing I really have a problem with the movie in general is that the samurai did not look down on guns. Guns were in Japan way before the European influence.
Yes.
The Maruda rifles.
The last 300 years they were fighting, I think it was in the tons of civil wars, but mainly the one rivaling the...
You ever play Shogun?
Yeah, rivaling the actual the period that we're talking about. I think was the Boshin War, and so tons tons of the samurai didn't look down on guns. They used guns. They used it actually quite regularly. And the army that Nathan Ogren is training was not brutally new like that. They made them all weak and terrible to show that the samurai were a formidable force with swords, bows, and arrows and all this stuff. And from what I've researched, samurai would use guns until they would mainly like either not have the funds, the resources, or the ammo to keep using them, so they would revert to using swords and bows. And they had thousands of years of tech, or not tech, strategy, and I'm blanking on the word here. Just they had tactics and everything based on sword and bow maneuvers, so they would use
and knowing the land. It was on their turf most of the time.
Yeah, so it was those are the only two real big problems that I had with the movie. Even before seeing it again, it's like I knew this stuff now, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a Hollywoodism, and okay,
I will say though, at one point they did mention like about the general, the samurai general, like he stopped using guns he stopped using dishonorable weapons at one point. They mentioned that in the early part of the film.
That's bullshit.
So I think
that's bullshit.
I know, no, I get it, but they do at least have a line that tries.
They do. I mean, they do
so
try
I'll
to say
give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Not saying it's right. But,
right. No, they do say
they
it,
address
but
it
that is total crock.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and it's also just this overwhelming noble savage fallacy that exists with like, the native tribes here and everything.
The dances
like that,
with wolves mentality. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Where they're all just like these humble, formidable, respectable, like people that use these primitive weapons. They don't keep up with technology. Well, it's the same thing in the US and in South America. As soon as their enemies came and had guns, they were trading, they got guns. They understood that, okay, now it's an even playing field. Same with these guys. And just because I know there's already people screeching because Japan is a very touchy subject, and then I'll let you go. Just give me like a 10-second diatribe.
No,
weebs.
None of us are Japanese historians. We do a little bit of research. We see what's in front of us. We know that you guys that worship Japan know every intricate detail. We're not claiming to be Japanese historians. These are our observations, and we're always learning. So with that
is a good blanketed statement. Yeah,
you can calm down and hug your anime pillow, your body pillow.
Hug your weeb pillows and cry to your anime.
Get back to listening because it's a good topic. It's fun. We're all having fun here.
Hype. And I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
You'll remember it.
Well, what was right before that though?
We were talking about the noble savage fallacy and like how the natives here used guns as soon as they could.
Yeah. So what's funny to me, so I liked the beginning of the movie with the 19th century showmanship. I thought that was really cool. Like, I didn't like how the dates were lining up because Little Bighorn didn't happen until after he headed to Japan. But anyway.
Right. Yeah. Really? That was funny.
I didn't know that.
Because they said the dates and I'm like, because I know a bit about the weather. I don't know too much. I don't want to say I'm an expert. But like, I'm just like, 1876, that was when it happened, and yeah, he actually goes to Japan, I think the month or whatever, like as the battle was occurring, because the Indian Wars are really over mostly by the late 1870s. The West was really that 1865 to 1880 period. I mean, it wasn't really settled completely until later on, but the last real big gunfight was the gunfight OK Corral, which was like 1882, which is a lot.
Yeah, the Wild West was a very, very short time period.
Yep. It
was like 15 years.
Yep.
And it seems like it was, 50 years according to all the movies and shit.
With the American expansion of it. But just to touch on it, it's funny because they're talking about how the Winchester, was so great and how like they was used by the 7th Cavalry. No, they had trapdoors mostly. And the fucking Indians were the ones that had older Henrys and Winchesters. And that's where they were able to fucking massacre those guys. Because the Indians had better weapons than the army, and that was very common, like at the time. Single action army revolvers were adopted over the 58 or 61's cap and ball. Like they're still single side loading revolvers.
Yes,
the Indians were trading for Schofield's top break revolvers and things like so. It's funny how their adversaries, in a lot of ways, had better weapons than they did. So it's
better tactics.
Because they're fucking smart. I mean, why would you use a bow and arrow when you use a Winchester on the back of a horse? You turn a very dangerous cavalryman into fucking like like whatever.
You've got a lot more distance and range in between.
Yeah, and you're just as accurate. So no, it's incredible. So yes, they are very honorable warriors and stuff, but fucking, you're gonna use this shit. as much as you can, because it just gives you that extra edge with your tactics, with your knowledge, and with your ability. But yeah,
But it seems that Hollywood seems that the Winchester and Henry repeating rifles were just like standard issue. But it's like, no, back then they were expensive as fuck.
That's why they're trying to.
purchase.
That's why they're trying to like sell them to dads who are taking their rich families out to the fair, because only rich families could be at the fair at 1870 whatever.
Right. Yeah. And it's like they were very expensive guns, and it's like that's why the native tribes, like, you wouldn't see them all armed with them, but over years they had traded and acquired, by peaceful means or not, all these guns. And the US Army, it's always going to be, okay, how can we get the most arms the cheapest way possible that are effective enough? And therefore you get trapdoors. So,
and it's funny too, because like they're, again, Winchester and Henry are the two big names of lever actions. But like, there were so many other knockoffs. Marlin made a ton. I know there's one or two other companies I don't remember the names of right now. But like there was a lot of lever guns that like they had a little different patents, like the Winchesters, but they were still out there. So like, it's just very interesting how they were propagated. And tying this into Japan, the Civil War was horrible for America. It was disgusting. It was so many guys were just thrown in. It was America's World War I in a way, because just the horrors of Cold Harbor, Antietam, all these things happening using Napoleonic tactics with rifles that are accurate to 1,000 yards. Like, it's just fucking
slaughter.
So in 65, you have this country that's shattered with, eminent domain to the west, and all these guys they can't go home. I think we mentioned in an earlier episode what HOBO stands for, Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
These Civil War veterans, and a lot of guys couldn't go home because I was at fucking Cold Harbor. I was at Fredericksburg. I was at Vicksburg. I'm not going fucking back there. So a lot of these guys were wandering. A lot of them joined the cavalry. A lot of them, took a lot of their aggression out on the Indians. A lot of them went abroad. It's just very interesting, this post-Civil War period where you have a shattered generation of people trying to come to terms with what they just lived through. And like, in a way, I had a very interesting connection to this, because this film, again, it's in Japan and stuff, but it's also a very Western film. Is how they try to base it. The film, the Black and Tan War that we had touched on in The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
Yep.
For the first time, I realized that the West was won in the same way that the Black and Tan War was fought. It was these guys that were mostly veterans of horrible conflicts taking it out on these indigenous populations. And it's very interesting to me to like make that click. And then to bring these advisors to different countries to basically do the same thing, i.e. Japan,
right.
Because they really tried to play into that trope of just like, destroying an insurgency. Kind of like in a sense of like, Vietnam-esque, like, you're same tactics, Indochina, Vietnam, whatever. A little annoying.
Destroying an insurgency. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but it's just interesting how, like, you just 65, America's fucked. Or it's not, we win the war, but we have all these guys.
That was the American Civil War was the end of this country, in my opinion. That's a different topic, but like, here's the thing: is that
topic, but
no, I mean that was it. We have not recovered from that even nowadays. If you look at it, if you really want to get into that, but like, no. So
no country recovers from a civil war, but yeah.
Why don't you shut your fucking mouth, Yankee?
Yeah. So
wow, who won?
But no, that's why it's like, okay, so we're expanding west, and it's like at that point we go, well, why don't we expand around the fucking world?
Yeah.
Why don't we go there? We've already beat the shit out of each other for 5 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make some money. Let's get some influence. Yeah. Let's get some resources. Let's do this.
It's like basically a lot of the American arms dealers realized that there was not going to be a lot of fighting, and there would be some, whatever in the West. But I forget, it was Hotchkiss. He was an American. Actually, grew up in my hometown, or not hometown, but he's like 10 minutes away from where I lived. And he was told in 1868 to go to Europe to make a machine that, quote, will cut those Europeans in half so they'll buy it. Because we had just went through this horrible war, so America didn't want to fight. So Hotchkiss goes over to Europe, and you might have heard his name, for all the things that they made. But
hold on,
it's very interesting.
We gotta wait for this fucking clock.
It just puts me in a foul fucking mood. Like if that was in my house, I'd literally go insane. And then
when Sean gets married, it's gonna be my wedding gift to him. It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
He hates that.
Well, let's get the man married as soon as humanly fucking possible. Then
he's so funny. We started COVID. I'm like just starting to like get to know like Sean like for real playing games, and Brian I guess had plugged the clock back in, and I just hear Sean going, "You plugged that fucking thing back in. Oh my god!
And now it's playing Christmas tunes.
Yeah, it's got a Christmas.
I mean, how good God. You do this on purpose. That's the thing. Is like,
it's great.
It's oh my God, it's the worst.
If you didn't make a deal about it, I would have muted it a long time ago.
Well, no, I cut around it in the episode, but you can tell when the sound kicks in because you can hear me go, that fucking clock, and I keep that in every time, even though the clock noise gets taken out in the post processing stuff. Funny. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, but shit, where was I? Get back into it. Yeah. So it's just interesting how 65 happens, and then the conflicts move away from the Americas. You have some things in the West, but then it turns into this, world building thing. Europeans are cutting each other's throats. Japan is really trying to turn itself into something, along with every other nation colonizing the world. But
well, they see the writing on the wall because of all this shit going on in the world, or in the West. Yeah.
And thus, that's why you have this interesting, growth of Americans going abroad and, doing things with these
training armies
and other nations.
Yeah.
And other nations as well. Like the French, they had a mission they sent to Japan. And that's actually where the character was based off of for Tom Cruise. He was this French guy that was helping train a guard for the shogun at the time. And he was there during the Meiji Civil War. And they ended up, long story short, taking the whole army out of the main island of Japan. Because remember, Japan is a group of islands. And they went to Honshu,
4 big ones.
The northernmost island, which is also known as to be the coldest. And they just took it over. So while the Meiji Empire, for a while, had the southern 3 major islands, the northern island of Honshu was actually its own Japanese shogun-like republic until it was invaded later on and then whatever. But so that's like kind of the world that this film takes place in. It's a very, like you said, Mike, a very interesting time. It's pre-smokeless powder, but it's post all these other things. So it really is the beginning of the arms race that leads up to 1418. Like we have to keep making things that's gonna fuck them up, like the Lebel. Like, let's make the best rifle in the world so that when we go to war with the Germans, we're ready. And they kind of did. But it's just a very interesting time, and so thus you have this little medieval society trying to go ahead 1,000 years, and
in
all these
very short amount of time.
Because wasn't it like 40 years later they're doing the Russian-Japanese war?
Well, the first one was in 1905.
So less than 30 years.
It's 51 years from Commodore Perry to the Russo-Japanese War. So, which is insane. 50 years. And think of 1950 to 2000.
Yeah.
Like, how much the world changed. And Japan basically did that tenfold in the Gilded Age. So, like, it's just...
Oh, I forgot about Matthew Perry. You're right. That's his name.
Yeah. And it's funny, too.
Not the guy from Friends, but yeah.
It's funny how much of a connection that Japan and America have. That we have had over time. Because... And whatever for
December 7th.
Well, we did expose Japan to the West, Commodore Perry and his fleet and everything.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of trades and everything. It's very interesting. And then we had the Second World War. But then we rebuilt Japan. We helped out build their economy back up. So that's something else that I realized in this film randomly. I'm just like, wow, America and Japan really have an interesting connection. And we really only are the superpowers of the Pacific. Traditionally, the last 200 years. Yep. Britain and Australia, whatever, China was initially...
and the Dutch for a little bit.
Oh, obviously. They're different parts, but if you really do think about it, since
but the big ones,
America and Japan have been the 2 biggest influence in at least the North Central Pacific. And especially after the First World War, when most of the colonies get taken over, especially the German colonies, Caroline Islands and stuff, and Japan starts to expand, especially in China. It's just very interesting how, it's like they are the Pacific powers. They are the Pacific players. And we are very closely connected. We have been for a very long time. So,
well, that's why, like, when you go forward to Pearl Harbor, a lot of people that weren't in the know couldn't figure out why Japan would do that. They're like, "What the fuck? You guys, we're like trade partners. What are you doing?"
Yeah, there was a lot of lead up and everything.
And they weren't in the know about the backdoor politicking and the shady shit that was going on behind the scenes. That's why everybody's like, why the fuck would they attack us? What did we do? We're friends. Like, and Yeah, so that explains a lot of that, and there's so many other factors, but yeah, it's the U.S. and Japan going back to that because I don't know if it's because I guess we were one of the first or the first outsiders to like basically force contact and force entry into their world that they had been trying so fucking hard to isolate from, the rest of the world because of this exact shit that had happened way in the past. And they're like, no, we don't want any outside influence, meddling and fucking with us. We can take care of our own problems. Nobody's allowed in or out. And that was working for them until it was like, well, I guess it didn't work for them.
It's interesting too, because even before this era of the 1800s and Japan expansion, you do have some foreigners that end up in Japanese culture and are accepted and get trained as samurai. And there was a very famous Englishman in the 1600s. He ended up there as like shipwrecked, and then he learned the language and became a samurai. So another very famous guy in the earlier 16th century. I think he was a African slave. I don't know if I didn't think he came from the West. He came from like an English slave ship that got sunk, and he ended up becoming a samurai. They're actually making a movie about him right now. I know Chadwick Boseman was going to be in that, but obviously, unfortunately, he passed away. So it's been a while. But it's interesting how like they've had these, throughout time, one or two Gaijin, I want to call them foreigners, have been accepted into the culture. But as a whole, fucking take your ship and get out of here.
Right.
You're not getting into this place at all. And they really try to protect that until wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Here's some cannons. We're in fucking Yokohama. So
yep.
It's
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so as far as the film is actually, yeah, I mean, that's a fucking tragedy. So anyway, as far as the film is concerned,
yes, now we've ranted about everything else and set the stage. No,
but so I'm just gonna say that the film itself, like you said, now that I have a different perspective on like actual filmmaking, it was shot very well. I mean, it's very professional. Obviously, it was a pretty high budget production, if I do remember correctly. Right? Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump into it.
Yep.
The first time you see the samurai attack is so cool because I forgot how amazing samurai armor is, and like the face shields and everything.
Yeah, they don't hold back on the
no.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's
it says
really
100. It says 100 million and 140, so maybe it's between those two. Maybe
that's what they said the budget was. Maybe they spent less, but
maybe it's two production companies.
Okay, well this one says 100 million and it made 456 million.
Wow.
Yeah, this one says 454 worldwide. So yeah, that's a good fucking profit. I mean,
the budget's definitely there for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it was so cool to see that, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it was very well shot, and then
the flags on their backs too. That was cool.
Now whether that armor is correct, though, I am afraid I don't know enough about.
I don't know
to
either.
know that either. So I'm sure there's some very good
because
experts.
Because it's late. Maybe there was an amalgamation of things that were used. Like this is just I don't know. I mean, I'm talking my ass right now, but at least to a Western viewer, it looked really cool and like fucking insane. I really like that, and also Ken Watanabe, the guy that plays the samurai general, he's so amazing. Like he's probably my favorite Japanese actor.
Ken Watanabe is really good, and also I'm gonna butcher his name. Oh God, what's his name? Hiroyuki Sanada. It's the guy who plays the dude who beats him up with a stick.
Yep.
Oh yeah, he's
awesome. I love him in everything
Enforcer.
he ever does. Yeah, he does. He's so good in everything he does.
He was really awesome in The Last Samurai, and I just watched a new HBO show that came out that I love called Tokyo Vice. It's about this reporter in a.
He's also in Westworld too. He has a samurai.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen Westworld yet. I've seen the original.
He's really good in it too.
He's just an amazing actor, and like I just really respect his craft and how he's able to play these.
He's going to be in the new. He's going to be in the new John Wick. He's going to be fighting Donnie Yen.
Oh, that's going to be
So
cool.
I'm like super excited for that.
I am very excited for that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, John Wick.
John Wick's going to like get his ear cut off. Or something, 'cause he's got to get in.
I will tell you though right now, best character in the whole entire movie, Billy Connolly. So everyone shut your mouth. I will not hear anything.
He's pretty good.
I will not hear anything bad about that man.
With his Winchester.
Dude, he's so good. I love him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, too bad he gets fucking spiked
He
right
gets
away.
shish kebabbed. He says that.
Yep.
He says that too. He's like, yeah, I liked being in The Last Samurai for the 5 minutes I was in it.
Right.
Like, he's
That
like,
was-
he's always like, I fucking was killed off way too early. I wanted to be in that more.
No. But it fits well with the arc. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the death of the, because you don't expect the veteran soldier to get killed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like whoops. But he goes out in a blaze of glory,
Blaze of Glory, yeah.
or a lever of glory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, could have been lasting a little bit longer, but yeah, got fucking spiked. But no, and it was cool, that scene of like, you know, even if those guys were well trained, those soldiers and everything, after that first volley, if they've got fucking muzzle loaders, yeah, if you got cavalry charging at you like that, you got mounted guys, not much you can do.
Well, it's a very interesting juxtaposition of let's say Rourke's Drift, you know, Zulu,
Right.
compared to this, and it just comes down to discipline and standing your
Yep.
ground. I mean, they're both fighting quote unquote native, you know, fighters,
Yep.
and native tactics, and it's like just fucking stand your ground and trust your weapons and have good officers. But
Well, they've
you
got
don't have
bayonets,
that.
so they could have gotten the first row of horses, but then what?
Oh yeah,
you know?
right. You know,
Once you
But-
get through that first line, you're fucked.
Yep. That's
So,
the thing. It's just having
yeah.
troops that waver. And that was the one thing I did like with Tom Cruise, where he's just like, shoot me. Like the guy
Yeah,
getting
okay.
like they're not ready. Yeah.
Because he got nothing to lose in that situation.
Oh yeah, he's literally like die. Like I want to die, you know, like fucking
yeah, just fucking
shoot
kill me, and
Yeah.
you're not going to. So fuck you.
Right? Soccer.
What okay. The one thing I will say is like, and you guys can counter me if you want, but I think what this movie does really well is character development.
Yep.
Even the cliche, I killed your husband and now you're with me now. Love interest. Yeah, cliche as hell, but it's still like they touch on. I don't know if it's because it's from. I wonder if if this character development really does really well because they're really showing, to a Westerner's eye, I guess, a Japanese culture, very much mysterious and hidden, and that the fact that they're giving light to that culture and that lifestyle and that whole entire thing. I wonder if that's maybe what makes it so much like they have really strong character development. But that is one thing that really stands out with this movie entirely, is you start to really want to know more and really start to understand all these other characters that are involved with this. And they
Right.
don't, like, if I were to compare it with Dancing with Wolves, it's like I almost feel like that this movie.
Dancing with Wolves.
What did I say it wrong?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Dances
Dances
with
with
Wolves.
Wolves. Okay, fine. Dances with Wolves. If I get Dancing with Wolves, yeah, we'll Dance with Wolves.
Dances with wolves.
Dancing with Wolves. Is that you are seeing that they are really showing how formidable this whole entire culture is. You know, the whole monologue of him like writing in the diary saying like, you know, from the moment they wake up to the moment they lay down, they're 100%ing going into a craft. Like, it's very interesting to see that, and I don't know why when it comes from Tom Cruise's mouth it hits me so hard, but it's like that
It's different.
because
Holy
it's
fuck.
no, it's like
You're under his fucking spell, dude. Gotta get that thetan count up.
So what level of Scientology
Yeah,
cleansing have
yeah,
you risen
yeah,
to?
it's
Nathan?
Scientology, yeah, and he's
How many thetans do you have?
jumping on my couch right now.
60,000. Wow.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. My point is that I think the movie does a really good job with really, really painting those characters and making you care. Because by the end of it, you care that the son gets gunned down on a bridge. You know.
Yes.
And
Oh,
everything
for
else.
everyone except for that captain who gets fucking samurai swords. With him.
Yeah. You
Like,
don't care about him becoming a literal sword in the stone.
You really don't.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, but it is interesting, and even how at the end the characters, like the Japanese army did bow to the death of them, and who knows if that happened or not. But again, civil wars are messy.
I think it's more
Like,
like
they're
it's more
horrible.
like the Bushido honor and paying, you know, warriors
Oh.
death kind of more thing than that. But yeah, I agree.
For sure, you know, but it's just, again, civil wars are messy, and it's like Mike had said earlier, you know, we hadn't fully healed from ours 160 years ago. and countries never really do when that rift occurs. It's but all you can do is reconcile and hope to find a way forward. Even though Jebediah was gunned down by you Yankee bastards at Cold Harbor. So
I wasn't there. I don't give a fuck.
you fucking
He
son of a bitch.
He was
Iron Brigade, fuck.
he was wearing a Hardy hat.
They're fucking awesome hats. What can I say?
But I will say this though, the ninja attack was a bit hokey, but it was cool.
I was just gonna bring that up. Also,
You know?
yeah, it was fucking weird.
The fighting in the houses was cool, like when they're cutting through the paper and shit. Like that was neat. And how the little kid was like, "Oh, I'll get the sword," and then like almost gets murdered a bunch of times. But
Realistically, that kid would have been fucking DOA.
oh yeah,
That guy was just sitting there like, pick it up, come on, buddy, come on.
And how everybody like went around him and like people were just getting arrowed to death. And I'm like, that's it, because it's just interesting how like the village, he's the asset.
Yeah.
So everyone protects him. But so parts of it were well done and it was interesting. I know why they did it.
That's a Hollywoodism through and through.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember
they're like, how do we fit ninjas in here?
And then they just keep coming in through the doors like just fucking piecemeal. Like
they could have had a better plot device to have that happen. I feel like you could have figured out a better way. But it is interesting.
Isn't that like 100 years too late or too early?
I honestly have no idea.
If I remember correctly, I think the timing doesn't make sense for ninjas, and I don't think they were even a thing at that point. Or I could be misremembering another movie. But if I remember correctly,
was cool,
I think that time eras don't line up, but it would make sense because the samurai and the ninja cult quality, because ninjas were peasants. They were peasants. That's why all their weapons are, knives and farm equipment with like chains on them. I mean, that's literally what some of them are. They're literally like scythes with like chains. So that's some of the ninja weapons. Like if I remember correctly,
Nunchucks? Huh.
No, not nunchucks. There's like a weapon that has like they're like two little mini scythes and they have like chains on them, or they have like stuff like that. But it's like nunchucks, but it's got like blades. Yeah. The point is that the ninja weapons are cheap, affordable, and easy to hide and replicate with farm equipment, if I remember correctly. So.
And they also make necks explode when you hit them with a shuriken. Just
yeah, right. Oh, I use a shuriken to open up my watermelon.
Yeah.
So that's how you
touch it and just go.
Oh, look at the diamond knife.
Yeah, the blood work, the prosthetics and shit like that on this one. Yeah, not the best.
You have to though, because they're trying to upplay the swordness and like the goriness,
The fucking
the guy
popping of the heads just
like he kills the one guy with like the scar on his face. And, he falls over and his head's still there, and then it falls like. Whatever,
it's like Darth Maul. It's fucking
right.
Yeah. I mean, around the same time periods, that must have been a thing in Hollywood.
Really
like,
they I was watching the movie on Plex, and they had a bunch of behind the scenes stuff tied to it, and so I watched a lot of special effects stuff. So I have a whole tangent about that to go over some stuff and some examples.
You know what's funny? I think Kill Bill came out around the same time.
Yeah,
I think 04.
Kill Bill was 01 and
was it 01?
Wow. Hold on.
I love Kill Bill.
I'm fighting Japanese lovers here, so if I say the wrong thing, so
I love Kill Bill, and it's
nope,
really
same year, 2003.
I knew it was around that time. I actually remember.
Holy shit!
I remember seeing that in theater.
Kill Bill only had a budget of $30 million.
Dude, it's fucking Tarantino. He fucking make gold out of lead.
I've never seen Kill Bill because there's so many fucking fanboys that tell me you have to see Kill Bill, and I just every time somebody says that, I want to see it less and less.
And like, I'll make a suggestion that if you ever get the chance, you might want to check it out. I'm not going to say it and like you have to do it, but I'm just
that's the same.
No, but I think
it made 180 by the way.
Dude,
Kill Bill.
I didn't like the second
one's
one.
Return,
but oh my god, the first Kill Bill was so good.
Yeah,
I think it did. Not to go off on a tangent, but I think it was really good. And so this week, J Law, did you guys hear about the controversy? She had an interview.
The fact that you said J Law makes me hate you more.
Oh, sorry. Jennifer Lawrence this week had an interview with I don't know what the term is. I don't know any actor's name or actress names, but she had this spat with Variety because she said in an interview that when she was put in Hunger Games, she was the first real lead in a action movie. And the internet blew up. They're like, you ever fucking hear of Uma Thurman or Sigourney Weaver? Like all these other people that came 30, 20 years before you. But it was just interesting to see that. And then 20 years, almost for Kill Bill. Like that's always been a film. I'm like, it's amazing. I don't even care. It's a female antagonist or
The
a lead.
first
Like it's
lead.
awesome. Yeah, in the
First
first
lead
female
in
lead in
an
an action movie.
Oh my god, that's fucking
she must
rich.
be
Dude,
turbo
and it's
high.
like dude, everybody's ripping her a new one. It's great. Variety deleted all their tweets and stuff, and it's been very interesting. But yeah, so Kill Bill is just interesting to compare, like to bring it back, like the sword play, because I feel like that's really well done, especially like the last one, like where they fucking cut her leg or something and she's limping, like the very subtle ways that they were able to show that, like, oh, you walk away but you're wounded, compared to like this where it's like more sword play Hollywood at times.
One
so it's
mind,
just
Brian.
interesting.
One mind.
There's gonna be I really want some weeaboos in the chat to tell us how the sword play was incorrect in detail, because I do not know.
I'm sure it's
And I know
bad.
I know you guys have your set of katanas, tantos, and whatever, and your shurikens on your wall.
It was cool though. You know how
No, it was cool. I loved it, but like
Well-
again, I can't tell if it's incorrect.
Oh,
or
no,
correct.
but I'll
It's
say
the
this,
same
though.
problem.
When
It's the
he
same
does-
problem we have with other films, where it's like we know it, but other people may not know it. But then it's vice versa on us. It's like, you know,
Yes.
When he does approach swordplay with the whole sword and everything, you notice he's using one hand. You
yeah,
know, and that's
Yeah,
the
that's
Western.
an
It's a Western
very
thing,
American
yeah.
thing.
So
yeah.
it's interesting how like they do show two hands over time. Like just,
Well, and he also is holding the katana correctly. He's just kind of your non-dominant hand is the guide on top that you hold it kind of loosely and you guide
Yep.
it with the rear hand. I do know
Mhm.
that much.
yeah,
I'm not a fucking expert, but then he was holding it correctly, and then they were actually doing the slicing,
Mhm.
like the pulling and slicing, like you're supposed to use it.
yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That was a nice little touch.
All I know
But-
is that I have an over 2 Japanese sword, one of the mass-produced ones I've had forever, and all I wanted to do is play with it when I watched this movie. I'm like, fucking, gonna ruin my TV or something. But I'm like,
dude, I tried to buy 3 of them over the course of the
$10.95?
weekend, and all of them are over $800.
they're
Yeah,
not
good
expensive.
luck.
Dude, it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
because Ian McCullen came out with a sword book, so now everything's
I didn't know that. So-
gone to the
Well,
wind.
that's the sword Sean's gonna be using. So.
Nice.
It was so at the end. It was very cool to see tactics and how they weren't just like, hi, we're gonna be Civil War battle that every movie ends in like this.
Napoleonic, yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool how like they pulled back in defense in depth and use your terrain and make them feel like they're winning, and that's again, that's the only way you
box
can
the
win.
box the front
Exactly.
guys in, cut them off. Yep.
Understand your assets in a defensive situation and then use them to your maximum.
And
it
you got to
was very
have
cool.
brass. You got to have fucking really heady balls to do what they did too.
You got to know when
That's
to
the big
instigate
thing.
the tactic. Yeah, because all those
Yep.
dudes are getting mowed down are the archers, and it's like, well, every second you're losing manpower. So when you
I love that when
yeah.
he's like when he's asking Tom or Algren, he's like, "What happened with the warriors at Thermopylae?" And he goes, "Dead to the last man." And he smiles, and then they fucking go.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, that's fucking hardcore.
Well, that's the thing, though. That was very interesting. That was the culture.
Yep.
Even again, that's why that was funny juxtaposition because that's Bushido. That is like you fight you kill 10 Americans and then you take a hand grenade and you put it against your chest like good soldier. It's just very interesting how okay, let's go. And the West was completely different, and how even
Oh yeah.
they have what is his name? I fucking forget it. Ben, or I'm getting it wrong already, but the Japanese general, he's he even said like, they were talking about the prisoner and they're like, he should kill himself. He has a bunch of honor, and he was like, well, they're different. So it's interesting to see like, someone from Asia, from the Orient, I will say, because the Orient and the West have 2 completely different ways of thinking. They've always have been. And the only way to understand it is if you really live in each culture. So each of us is very hard to understand the other. But it was very interesting to see that, show how much he knew about the West and respected it to the point where it's like, no, you can get more by respecting their ways than just killing somebody and imposing our way on them. Again, whatever, that might be like a trope, like look at the savages with their medieval stuff, they're gonna kill everything. But it was just interesting, like there's value in
Look at the
this.
savages and their medieval stuff. They're gonna kill everything.
yeah, like,
That's funny. But yeah, that's the way a lot of people thought that weren't part of that culture. Yeah, it's
yeah, and unfortunately both ways, because you just don't get the other side, People
well, and
are
that's
people
here's
at
the
end
thing
but-
too is like that could have been a trope. It could have been bullshit, but like I don't know if you look back on in many cultures, Western, it's just a pretty universal theme that I've noticed in reading old stuff, semi-old stuff, modern stuff. the best military leaders and leaders in general of a people, whatever, if they're actually intelligent and give a fuck about their people and protecting and providing for said people, they seek to learn about new cultures so they understand it, so they go, okay, if we ever have to fight these fuckers, we at least know where they're coming from and we can counter it with that. And what does it hurt to know a different culture? You don't have to practice it. No, fuck no. You don't have to do that. But if you know about it and you can understand it, well, that puts you in an advantage, because then if they don't understand your culture and you go there and you understand theirs, well, that breaks down a huge wall. And then they go, holy shit, how did you know that? That's why when he started speaking English to Algren, and it's kind of more broken at the beginning, he goes, yeah, I just want to basically learn English from you. And, you just want to talk to me. That's why you're keeping me alive. And then they have a different conversation, and the conversation is the Japanese culture of like, okay, the conversation's over, I've gotten all I need out of this, so we'll talk later. No, but all right, he keeps going, and he realizes that he's not going to get anywhere, and it's just kind of interesting. But yeah, it's like, what if you're smart? Why the fuck would you not take advantage of it? How many opportunities are you going to have? Because this isn't just a Imperial Japanese soldier that you captured. This is an American advisor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, they're the ones that are going to be teaching these guys how to fight,
mm-hmm.
not the Imperial Japanese Army, because obviously they can't fuck. We know they want to fight, and we can fucking counter that. But now the Americans are teaching them their method of warfare, so I'm going to take advantage of that while I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's very smart. It's a very interesting, good move. That's very old.
So. Oh yeah, that shows a true statesman.
Yep.
the ability to do these things.
I'm gonna call you Bob. Are you Bob? Are you angry because they make you wear a dress?
Yes, that was great.
Oh god,
yeah.
Yes.
And when he dies, you're like, Bob.
Yeah.
You don't hear him
that
speak
was
the whole
was
movie.
shitty.
I think.
Yeah, he says his.
No, I don't think he does.
He says his.
screams.
He says his last name, and then he runs up and takes a bullet to the chest and kills the dude, and falls over. He's like, Bob.
Yeah,
I'm gonna name you Bob.
And to be fair, the whole like last battle scene,
Hollywood.
Yeah, the tactics were cool and everything. Dude, that fucking thing could have been cut down so much.
It's showmanship. Like, it's
oh, it's this. Yeah, and it was just the okay. We've got the Gatling guns firing. Okay, we get it. It's a quick and no magazine changes, but that's just a small, minute detail. They only hold like.
Dude,
20
there is
rounds
a
per
fucking boomerang actor in that back left-hand quadrant of that shot.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you saw the Wilford Brimley caterpillar.
Do you know that's Herschel from Walking Dead? Did you know that?
Is what?
Yeah, the guy, the dude from who's the.
Oh no! I'm talking about the guy in the last part of the battle. The guy that's standing behind. He's fucking gargantuan, and he's got this big gray fucking bristle brush.
Maybe that's the one I'm talking about. Hold on, the one the.
I know who you're talking
about. Diplomatic.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking.
Okay,
I'm not talking about
the
him.
diplomatic guy was Herschel from Walking
Dead.
Yeah,
I knew that.
You and I think are thinking of the same guy. Let me share my screen here and I'll show you because I have it up here.
Oh yeah, I know we're thinking of the same guy. Yeah.
And just quickly, now that we're on the editing thing, I don't feel like the battles were too long. I feel like whatever, I get it, but I feel like there was a bit between like the 90-minute and the 2-hour mark that really could have been cut out. Like I feel like if they cut 15 minutes out of this film, it would have been a lot quicker and easier to understand and get the same exact points across. But it did, was annoying at times.
It was just a lot of these parts seem to be drawn out unnecessarily. I understand why you would draw out a part. I get that, but like
that. Oh yeah, and I love to see the horses getting killed. I mean, I don't want to see animals die at all.
They never do that in movies.
They don't. Like if you think about Warhorse, and again, it's a PG-13 film. They have the one scene where they run through the machine gunners, and it's horses with no men on them, and it's very powerful, whenever. But it is again, it's. Animals also suffer.
That's the guy I'm talking about with the Wilford Brimley fucking bristle mustache.
Do you have diabetes, Mike? I have diabetes.
Call Liberty Medical. They can help you live a better life.
That is such a reenactor because he puts it in backwards and he goes like he says like a command and he like switches it over, but he's like very much like not panicked
Nathan,
at the fact that there's something coming.
No, I figured it out. That's the guy that owns the Gatling gun.
That's what I
was just gonna say that.
I was gonna say that next. Yes, yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah, he said, I need to watch over and make sure my property's not mishandled.
He doesn't even have a revolver in his holster, if you look.
Does it? I thought he did.
I don't see a
So-
hilt of a pistol.
And I love how they're holding in one fucking spot and the rounds are impacting like 180 degrees around the fucking battlefield.
That's just movie, yeah.
I know all the fucking little what are they called? The not
Yep.
the squibs, but like the little
So-
what the fuck are they called? The things have to go off.
So-
these are, because we're on it now, you know, I got a lot, in a very good way, I got a lot of We Were Soldiers vibes from this film. Like, you know.
the last charge and then
No, completely. Like, the whole thing. If
Oh.
you look at the arc of We Were Soldiers, you look at the arc of this, obviously they're two different films, different conflicts, but
I wish they would have had the firing rate not be as consistent.
yeah, I hear you. Well,
Because
they
you know
took
what I
one
mean? Like,
recording. Mhm.
yeah, because I know they did and they just kept
It
looping
should be
it. Yep.
faster than slow because your arm's getting tired, you know?
Yeah, and
Like,
it
that's
should be
really
like
cool.
because some of the rounds don't chamber super fucking smooth.
Oh, interesting.
and-
Oh, that makes sense.
You know what I
It's
mean?
carbon
So
buildup.
it'll be
Yeah,
harder on
so-
the crank, and so it's like
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
like it's really, if you ever heard a Gatling gun, I've heard multiples of them being shot,
Oh, wow.
and none of them are consistent. That sounds like a fucking 1917 water cooled.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
sounds
so
like an automatic
consistent.
motor. Yep.
Exactly.
But that's a good point. Yep.
That's the only critique. But you could tell that they fucking they did one recording that sounded good and they just kept looping it over and over
Yeah.
again.
And if you think about how your
So-
hand works, regardless of the mechanism, you know, you're always going to be bigger on the downward slope than the upward slope. You know?
Yep.
So-
And you are going to get tired. There's a lot of factors.
Exactly.
It's still going to be you're going to have a fucking lead shower going out there, but like
oh yeah. Mhm.
it's not going to be super consistent like that. And that was a little bit fast. That was a lot faster than 200 rounds per minute that they claimed.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's just me being a fucking pedantic piece of shit, like I always am. But like, that was one thing that I think they could have done better on is just the Gatling gun itself. Because like everybody's gonna be having a wet dream and like jerking off to the Gatling
Mhm.
gun because it's the thing. Oh, a Gatling gun. It's like, well,
Yeah,
they're heavy. They're
1870s?
fucking
Yeah.
they're cumbersome. They're fucking
It's an
not
artillery
great.
piece.
Yeah, exactly.
It literally is.
It's a very, very, very it's a big liability to have one
Yeah.
of those on the battlefield.
Well, that's why they are like, Custer's a fucking idiot. And their Gatling guns are fucking little bighorn. It's like that would slow him down so much.
How?
You know?
How the
Like,
fuck
so
you have to
much.
bring 4 fucking horses?
Got a battalion of
4
infantry. It's fucking,
Yeah.
you know, like, or cavalry. But it's just very interesting for, you know, that little things, you know. That's the thing that I think this movie suffers for, the little technical details like that. You know, that's what you can really hold them to because it's like you could have made it cooler. But
Yeah.
anyway, Nate.
So there's a couple things that I've even when I was 13, I laughed because I have an eye for 3D. I always wanted to do editing and 3D work, and I've done that in my adult life, and I struggled to keep doing it as a career, but
Thank you for your service.
thank you. But I noticed these things, and so this always makes me laugh every time because when 3D stuff is bad, it's bad. And so there's two things. So have you noticed when guys go off on the horses, they're throwing? You see them; they throw their swords up in the air,
Yep.
like all theatrically. That's not for any like specific thing. That's to get the sword the fuck away from them
Yep.
because they're gonna fall over.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so in this, you'll see everyone throwing their swords up in the air before they take the fall. But if you notice on Ken Watanabe's scenes and Tom Cruise's scenes, there's some strange abnormalities, and I'm going to show you them.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
CG head,
Oh yeah.
normal body. Look at Tom Cruise's face. It's going to show it again. They'll cut the same scene again.
Oh. Looks like a fucking orc.
Yeah.
So was that a stunt double that they tried to
Yes, it's a stunt
This is
double with
interesting.
CG faces on them.
Yep.
Now, back
So-
then, because I know there's a lot of tricks they do today, like, you know, me and Nate have talked about this in the past. Like
This
having
is
different colored
03, so
faces and things, and-
that was
so-
pretty good for 03. I will just say
But
that.
how would that be done
Now
at
or
this time? I'm just out of curiosity. I'm interested.
Well-
So, like, let's say Joe Schmo, I'm going to make him look like the beautiful face of Mike Birch. How do I
me
do that?
personally, on my budgets of what I would do now in this day and age,
Money. This
I
is
would-
Hollywood 2003. So how would they do it? I just want to approach it like that. I
like
know how you would do
like
it.
if
but-
I was in 2003, how would I do it?
yeah.
I just
How would-
wouldn't
how
show
would they
his
do this?
face.
Oh no, but how would I'm sorry, Nate. I mean, how was this done back then? Because like
Most
I see
like-
the result and how bad it is, but
Yeah.
so was it literally just filmed and they would try to track it on the image?
Most
and then
most
place the
likely
face,
is that
or-
they either they planned for it and they tracked their faces with dots, which I don't think they did. I
Yeah,
think
I
they
think it's
just
too early for that.
no, because Lord of the Rings was doing it at this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
that's right. So like Gollum and everything.
Yeah, like
So-
the technology
yeah.
was there. It's just, can the production company afford it?
Hmm.
Because that's the thing. The technology is there, but it might be too expensive for what they want to put into it for a shot that's literally 4 seconds long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Huh.
and remember, it's 2003. The resolution's not 4K like it is now, so it's like, it's a little bit different. I mean, like Lord of the Rings effects are great, but you can definitely see their age now because of 4K stuff that you couldn't see before. But I mean, the thing is, the reason why it looks weird is because they're 3D remaking Tom Cruise's face and trying to make the cheek realism match the same thing as the actor who is falling. So faking physics is very hard, especially if you don't nail it right. Also, the thing with that scene is lighting. If I go to the shot here, if I can get it free framed again, light, if light doesn't match in 3D to the original shots, you can notice it a whole lot more. And in this scene, I just think that is the reason why it doesn't work.
I didn't catch it at all, but I totally see it now.
See
And the way that
Oh,
the
yeah.
see how
violentness
his
of
face
head
is
twerking.
see how his face
Yeah.
is literally half an inch lower than the rest of his head right there.
Yep.
That's a tracking problem, and that's because
and
you're
just-
tracking a live face trying to match it.
And just for people, I mean, we have the advantage of having video playback, and obviously you guys are listening to this. But if you want to look into this is about 2 hours and 12 minutes into the film during the big battle sequences. If you just look at Tom Cruise,
2:12:09.
you can see what we're talking about. But it's interesting, I didn't catch that at all. But
Yeah,
I was
Maybe his
watching it on
fucking
big
wig's
TV and
just
everything.
falling off.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's because they're probably just trying to match it to the and
Yeah,
again, it's like, if I were to do it now, I mean, technology has gone crazy. I mean, like, I can do a deep fake in my own fucking basement, and
That's the crazy thing, yeah.
and instead of recreating, wiggles, I could probably get something close to that, very cheaply.
It's really funny too. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but
That's
like,
okay.
Tom Cruise is the biggest deepfake person of all today.
Yes.
This is that one guy that deepfakes him all the time for playing golf. And
Yes.
everything. Hey, I'm Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So it's hysterical how 20 years ago we're talking about this bad deepfake in a way, and now he is Mr. Deepfake.
But like even Ken Watanabe's got it too, but it's probably because the stuntman
for
didn't
sure.
look like
Yeah.
him, so they wanted to make it. And again, these are like 3-second shots. This is super nitpicky, and I'm not gonna. This doesn't affect my score. This is just
It's
No.
just
This
this.
interesting,
It's
yeah.
just interesting because it's what interests me, and I always see it every time. Even in 2003, I would see it. I'd laugh. I go, eh.
Well, this shit's so forgivable as far as, again, you said it's 3 seconds. It does not take anything away. Dude, I would not have noticed that unless you said something, of course.
The longer you spend in the editing booth, the more shit you see, and the more shit you're okay with forgiving.
Yeah.
It's just
That is funny, though. Like, now that I see it.
Dude, their faces are as dark as their armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's
So,
lighting. That's why that shot does not. That's why I see it. The lighting doesn't match
Yeah, you're
the
totally
rest
right.
of the body. So
Yep.
It's a great scene though. It really,
Yeah.
how hard it must have been to get all those horses to fall.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
And that, I mean, a horse falling on your leg. Oh,
With broken leg most of the time, traditionally.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
these guys
yeah.
took some major hits, like falling. Like,
Oh yeah.
horse stunt work is hard, and horse stunt work is dangerous, and it can go
that's
bad.
probably a decent chunk
really
of the budget.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
like,
guy
for
with a
this
shotgun in
scene.
the background.
Oh, Brian, Jesus. Yeah. So
I love horses. It's just the reality. I love the flags too.
there is a lot of platoon waving around here, but it's
Well, that's kind of like, yeah, in a way, it's
but it doesn't take
know?
away from it. You know what I mean? Like it's good, all good.
No, yeah,
Again, that was my like little nitpicky thing. I wanted to jump out in editing. I know
Oh,
it
that's all
sucks for
good.
an audio podcast, but yeah, if you go to 2 hours and 12 minutes, you'll find it. And I'll put a link to a picture somewhere. I'm sure I can find it.
yeah, but no, it was just very well done in a lot of different ways. I like the editing. I like the style. So as always, we're jumping on IMFDB, and yeah,
44 rimfire. Oh,
18
nice.
open top. That's interesting. Removable cylinder or?
I have no idea.
Mullet Tom Cruise.
Oh, everybody wore mullets in the 7th cab.
Yeah.
Fucking. It's like Theo Von's great grandfather.
Tell this man if he does not shoot me, I
Except
will kill him.
Tom Cruise's volume is a lot more robust.
Yes.
Theo's, so
Ute!
that's
Yes.
about it.
Okay.
Ute!
Cult single action armies. Oh,
I
great.
really want one of those.
Why
These
do
are
they
the-
call it 45 long Colt? It's 45 Colt. Like it's a proprietary.
Because the
fucking
gun is
cartridge.
long, Mike. God.
Well, they did come in different calibers, and they probably did use
But-
a 45 long Colt modern production gun, so that's probably why.
That's probably why.
But
Well, yeah, but like 45 Colt that's
it
one
was
cartridge.
mostly like 38
yeah.
40, 45 70. I forget what the standard round of the cavalry was. back
44
then.
Winchester centerfire is a pretty popular one too.
Yeah. Old cowboys, what they would want to do, the smart ones, is you have the same caliber for
Yeah,
your pistol
exactly.
as your rifle, so you're all set to go. But the
Single
cavalry
action
used
army.
SAAs. I love the
A
frontier
single
models.
action army, only steel on my hip.
Ooh, I didn't know
Fuck.
Schofield. I love Schofield.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I saw that in the
Red-
fog battle. Yeah.
Old Hollywood films and Red Dead Redemption is how I fell in love with all these firearms. So
Well, see again, like during the 1870s, well, basically the 1860s through the 90s, there was so much shit going on. I can't even fucking keep track. So
that's something else I forgot to say. So the Smith & Wesson is very interesting in the Japanese history of firearms because they bought a ton of them from the West. And if you notice, there's a lot of similarities between this firearm and the Japanese Type 26 revolver. The Japanese Type 26 revolver literally was a smaller version of this pistol because it was so popular in the Japanese military. I think that they were chambered in 44 Russian. It's funny how it was a very, very, very big, frame revolver for, an Asian nation. That, stereotypically these people have been shorter than everybody and they have this fucking hand cannon. There's actually a really good book called Hand Cannons of the Japanese Empire. And it starts with this and it goes to the Nambus and stuff. But this gun is very interesting. They're very ingrained in the Japanese.
yeah, the
military
Type
of
14 is a
time.
big fucking handgun. Like they look small in pictures,
The
but
26
yeah,
you mean, or?
no, I'm talking the Nambu Type 14. The later on.
Oh,
I mean, I'm just talking about their pistols in general are just fucking big.
well, the 14 is big and the 94 is actually small. If that one's fucking
Yeah,
really...
the Papa Nambu, yeah, the little one.
No, the one the side shot one, the later one that came out. The tankers mostly used.
Type 94.
Nate, go up. We got to talk about this. Go off on a tangent. Yeah, the Type 94, the one that everybody says.
Yeah,
you
that's
shoot
what I'm
up the
talking about.
side.
Yeah, it's the
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 smaller one.
Yeah.
The Papa
Yeah, the later one.
and those Nambus, the Navy firearms of the teens, yeah, they're a lot smaller. But the Type 94 is just a little smaller, and that's the one that everybody says is a piece of shit because it's got an exposed sear. And yes, you can just press the sear and shoot it, but that didn't happen during the war. Anyway, yes, the Schofield.
That's a weird fucking pistol.
They're very interesting.
Like, if I cut off my pinky, it will fit in my hand perfectly. Like, they're very small guns. Yeah, the Remington 1858 New Army. That was cool to see.
They're heavy.
They're 45 caliber conversions, which was a popular
you
thing.
can
Shave
get
the back of the
conversions.
receiver
Yeah,
up.
you can
Yeah.
get the that's the conversion one, and then the ones I have are the ones with the nipples on them. So
For cap and ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big thing at this time too. They were trying to convert older firearms to new styles of muzzle or breech loading.
Yeah.
The Trapper model, that was cool. 73 gun that won the West. Everybody talks about the 94 Winchesters and the 92s, but the real ones were the 78s, the 73s, and then obviously the 66 Yellow Boys. Those are the real guns that won the West, and the Marlin.
Yeah, the full length fuckers too. The Trapper was, I mean, it's a carbine.
Yeah.
The full length sons of bitches with like, what is it, a 24-inch barrel?
Yeah.
20.
Winchester
That
was,
gets you some distance.
Winchester was really good at custom firearms for everything. Octagonal
Yep.
barrels, this, that, and the other
Yep.
thing. But a lot of these guns were modified by cowboys. Because, if you notice, they have a dust cover over the top of the gun, and they were really shitty. So a lot of times guys would solder on pieces of steel. It would crimp the top of the receiver, so it would grab. These guns were very heavily modified on the frontier. And here's a full-length 73.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful firearm. My father had one that was in a big caliber, like something in the 44 whatever, and we used to call it Big Medicine, had an octagonal barrel and shit. Yeah,
It
was cool to
bums
see.
me out. Billy Connolly's got Parkinson's now. He's like,
Oh, that
yeah,
sucks.
he's pretty much retired.
Yeah.
Model 1861.
Yep.
Rifled muskets.
Those helmets are interesting too.
Birthday! I almost bought one of these actually a few years ago. I think it was last year. I think I sent Mike a picture. I was like, "What do you know about these?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't know shit." I'm like,
I don't know shit about them.
It was like this type. It was that kind of type helmet. Yeah.
You should wear that helmet, and then Mike B can get that Indian helmet he's wanted forever. And, you guys look
Oh
great together.
yeah, no, that one's sold. But I'll get one eventually.
A
It's
great
not on the
a
priority
great
list.
representation of foreign military right here.
Yeah, fucking crazy. I don't see how that could be very effective. Little tin fucking hats. Wow.
Little triangle.
Well, I was
hat.
thinking even the samurai traditionally had very interesting hats, and they touched on it a little bit, but they had like the bowl hats, and they had the other.
Yep.
Nothing was as traditional as like the fucking face shield. And
Oh, they had
everything,
Enfields
thinks.
too from this. Right, duh. That makes sense. They would take everything from the Civil War and ship it over there. Yeah.
Surplus.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, they had so many fucking leftover arms, and they were trying to sell them to civilians, and there wasn't enough people that were buying them, and they were like, okay, well, let's sell them to other armies.
That's another misconstrued thing about the West while we're on it, because this is American advisors, but like there was a lot of cap and ball into the early 1900s. Like, it was very expensive for people to buy certain cartridge firearms, we'll call them.
Well, that's why like poor people after the Civil War, like on the frontier and shit, could get a surplus 1853 or some shit for pennies on the dollar, because the government didn't want to pay to store them anymore, because that costs more than they're actually worth.
There's only so many you can convert.
And so they started just selling them to civilians, and civilians were buying them up because they're like, oh, I can get a cheap fucking firearm to feed my family.
Yep.
Awesome.
And those days are gone too now.
And there's tons of parts. Yeah, well, that's how a lot of these organizations started, was through like marksmanship programs like that. The government was like, here, just sell these to people. We can get a few bucks back, and then we don't have to store them. And then all these parts too go with them, because we actually have parts for them, which is a huge deal if you're living on the frontier. Is parts.
Oh yeah,
and
those are expensive.
And that's the problem. I think not since the Gulf War, surplus has not really been a thing for the next generation of retirement of stuff to at least in the States now. They've stopped.
Oh well, no. What the problem is like, so not to get into like too much gun control shit, but like basically anything that's from the late 50s on, when countries stopped using bolt action rifles as their primary like weapon, they started going to like semi-auto shit and upgrading. That stuff by and large is not legal to import to the US unless it's a cut parts kit. Even now it's more restrictive. So the surplus that we've been seeing is from mainly World War II and the years just after World War II.
Right.
Well, it's been 70 years now, and most of that shit's dried up, and the surplus still exists. We just can't get it.
Okay.
So that's the problem with that.
Okay.
So
like all those Lugers and STGs and G43s that are Russian captures, that are just in Russian arsenals that are going to get turned into staircases.
And Russia definitely won't sell to us now. So yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
the 1871.
Yep. Yeah, 1871s are cool to see. But 84, a different trigger guard. Interesting.
Yeah, 7184 has just got the magazine, the tube mag in it.
That was a screwed up scene. Cutting off that guy's top bow.
Yep.
Well, it's like the samurai were losing their status on the world, so within their what they presume is their world, like they were getting lower even than the merchants at that point.
And the soldiers are mostly peasants. They're gonna fucking get back.
Yeah.
What's funny too is if you look at the way they're holding the firearms, the chicken wing in a way, that's the right way to do it for the time.
Yep. For sure.
So it's interesting. Oh, more Mausers.
Is it the same ones?
Well, the 71 the stock's a little bit.
And then
the 84, they put a tube stock, like kind of the Lebel style underneath. So the stock's a little bit beefier, if you can see that.
Oh,
that's
interesting.
the only difference.
I didn't notice. So for the first part of the movie, they have cap and ball, and the second part of the
No.
They have ball
Oh, yes, they do. Like the 71's a single shot, you load it.
Oh yeah,
breech loading. Yeah. But then the 84's got the magazine, so they can keep going.
I'm trying to see if everyone's got one. It looks like everyone does.
I think they do. Yeah.
Cool bayonets too.
Yeah, the Gras bayonets, Gras style.
Oh yeah, you're
on
right.
the side,
I was gonna say they look very French because they are. Oh, howitzer.
The mountain howitzer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those don't look like mountain howitzers, but hey.
Was it say the props at all? They probably are, but
yeah. I mean, those are mountain howitzers are really light and compact like that, and the ones that they have in the movie are not.
Shiny.
A lot of brass.
Yeah.
Model 1874.
These particular guns were.
Particular guns. Oh, hold on. Here we go. So these particular guns were heavily repaired by Master Armorer Gary Harper. Go Google him really quick. Let's see if that's our.
I'm gonna say Gary Harper.
Dun 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 dun
Last
dun
Samurai.
dun dun dun.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh yeah,
we knew it.
Yeah. Fucking called it.
Confirmed.
Oh, he was SF. Go back. Look at that picture of him down in the
Bottom
below
right,
that
yeah.
bottom right, wearing the beret.
Yep, green beret. Wow.
Oh, cool. He was a SF. That's fun. Go to the picture of his. Go back to the picture of his like fruit salad. I want to see that real quick.
Typical 80s, 90s, right?
Yep, exactly. So
that's cool. But that's funny how he literally called it out. Fucking.
God, yeah.
That's the guy. Mean, you know.
Clockwork. I mean,
diabetes.
Look at this.
Oh my god. Yes, you do.
If you want to have Gary Harper on your T-shirt, go to Boomer and Sons.
Hashtag Boomer and Sons clothing.
I know what I got, son.
Got that plug. But that's interesting.
These particular guns were heavily repaired.
Yeah. Well, they must have been original or older reproductions or something. Because I know they've been. Technically, they're not.
There it is. Master Armor Gary Harper oversees the Imperial soldiers as they prepare to fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
It's funny, you know, because he's literally probably making sure that they're not doing anything to fuck it up if he spent a lot of time fixing them. So,
that's a lot of money sitting right there.
Oh, I can only imagine. Oh, I wonder, where do they film this? Because it did look very Japanese. Like it did, you know, the landscapes and everything.
This is when they do their job really well and they say California.
I'd be surprised if it was California. New Zealand. Oh, that makes sense.
There's a lot of films shot
that
there.
Makes sense.
Well, it's very variable terrain. So that was the IMFTV. So I guess we're on to closing thoughts, guys. Who wants to start?
Yeah. Nathan, you start.
Nice notes.
Thank you. You can see all my notes on my
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
I'm just gonna write that on things now.
Yeah.
Bullet point 1, Tom Cruise.
So
I'm glad I'm not the only one that uses notepads still.
Yes,
because
I've
been told by the authorities that only fucking idiots and retards use notepads.
I use pen and paper, papyrus. It's only been out for a few thousand years. Yeah, but anyway, so who wants to start?
No, I've said everything pretty much I've wanted to say and complained about everything I wanted to complain about. I mean, I really, really liked this movie. It holds up well. There have only been a few things that kind of didn't age well and nothing in like, you know, no one's fault or anything. It's just me knowing more about that era and the history surrounding that time period. It's like I know more now, so obviously little things stand out. Like, you know, even though they said the line, I still hold it against them for being like, oh, they didn't use guns and they didn't use stuff, and they're just you know, savages with bows and arrows, and you know, we got to make them like, you know, super 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 underdog and kick their ass, even though they only have bows and arrows and swords. Other than that, it's really well edited. I like the cadence of this movie. I actually don't think it's too long. You guys think I think both you guys said you thought it was just a little long. It could be trimmed maybe like 10 to 15, 20 minutes out. I don't think so. I like it a lot. If you had to trim anything out, I guess it would be the whole son, like, you know, the prisoner conflict thing, with saving him, because they had to show like the emperor has no balls and he's caving under, you know, the Western influence society. And I get it, but if you really had to trim something, you could trim that whole prisoner scene. And the whole like
Nate likes them long, we know that.
And wide.
Anyway, I like this movie a lot. I'm gonna give it a tragic. Moving on. I'm gonna give it.
Wow.
I'm gonna give it
anyway
an 8 out of 10 Scream Mel Gibson's. It holds up really well, and I really like the acting all the way around. And yeah. It's a really, really cool movie. It's probably, I hate that clock to death. Sean, let's meet up, steal it, and smash it with hammers. Anyway,
fuck?
8 out of 10 Scream Mel Gibsons. And I passed the talking pillow to
Yeah.
Mike B.
Guess I don't have a fucking choice now because oh god. Anyway, yeah. So points you made, yeah, and you know, it's I view this as, like I said last week, as entertainment and not necessarily a play-by-play of what happened. And I like entertaining films. It's a big portion of what they're designed to do, and this one does because it's very entertaining. I don't like him as long as Nate does, but you know, I see why he does.
Those country
It
boys, they kind of one and done, you know. They don't got
Yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
Two
but,
pump chump.
Yeah, it was a little bit long, a little bit, but whatever. If that's the worst thing about it, which I think it was, which isn't that bad, that's not a big deal. There are a few little technical areas like there are in literally every film. Like there's not going to be a film that doesn't have them. They're all forgivable in my opinion. And yeah, it's entertaining, and it does kind of open up people that probably wouldn't otherwise know that shit was going on in the 1870s. Might open them up to go, oh, well, maybe I'll go do a little Google search and go down a little rabbit hole today. So that's really cool. The acting was okay. I don't think Tom Cruise, like the more I see of his stuff, the older I get, he has to play a very specific role for me to think he's really good. And in this one, what?
Shoot me.
Okay.
Okay. I ruined your flow. I'm sorry.
I don't know. That's fucking fine, Nate. Again, it's your world now. We're just living in it.
It's your podcast, Nate.
Yeah, it's your podcast. But no, anyway, so it's like his acting, it's whatever, but it's Tom Cruise. Everybody knows him. It is what it is. He got the point across, I guess. There was some cheesy shit, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I could go on, but it's not the point of the movie. The movie is entertaining. I've always found it entertaining, and that has not changed. So, long story short, I'll keep this nice and brief for all you people. And I'm sorry I insulted weeaboos, but not really. Yeah, 8 out of 10 as well. Solid.
Decent. Yeah. So I think everything's really been said. You know, it's a very interesting movie. I really enjoyed it. Looking back, I wish I wouldn't have avoided it for so long.
Yeah, I'm actually
But
kind
yeah,
of. I'm
it was really good.
still shocked you've never seen this before.
Well, here's another shocker. I saw a buddy of mine out west. He was shocked by this too, but I've also never seen any of the Harry Potter films. And he was just like,
you're not missing anything.
No, I know. Well, some people love, but it's funny. I was just like, yeah, I just never watched them. And my buddy went like, wow, that's pretty dedicated. You know, not to see any or read anything. And I'm like, no, I just avoided it. Whatever. Yeah. But no, looking back, I wish I would have watched this earlier. But regardless, I saw it and I really enjoyed it. You know, there's some things that are annoying. It's a bit Hollywood. Some of the dates don't line up. You know, it is an amalgamation of different characters. It suffers from its length, in my opinion. You know, I guess I don't like him as long as Nate, even though I like long movies. But no, I don't know. For me, I wish it would have been a little shorter. But that doesn't mean it's horrible. That doesn't mean, you know, I don't like it in any way. That's just my personal preference. So that being all said, it's funny. I'll be giving the highest score of an 8.5. It's a very interesting movie. And I really think it's worth your time to watch it. And you really just get a start on Japan as it becomes a nation. And, you know, it's just, they try to really walk the middle of the road and tell that story. And they do a good job of doing it. So I'm going to give this, like I said, an 8.5 out of 10. So putting all these scores into the computer that will tell you if you're going to get shanghaied or not, we end up with a score of 8.1. So pretty high up on the scale. And definitely check it out. You know, it's just at the end of the day, if it's not historically accurate, it is enjoyable. And,
yes.
You know, who doesn't like fucking throwing swords through people? I mean, come on. You know,
and Mauser 1871, 74s. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and like all this crazy. And if you're a helmet nerd, there's so many helmets in this thing. Like you just the whole time you'd be like, "What the fuck's that? That's awesome! Oh, look, that's another one, like a face shield. Oh my god!" So like, it did make you realize, like, well, if I have to make a lot of money, it'd be cool to have a suit of Japanese armor. So,
they are out there. Last month, I only sold for like $2,000. You get the whole thing, top to bottom.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's funny. I know they're worth a lot of money and stuff. I'm like, that would be cool, but no, it's I was very pleasantly surprised.
I'd pay money to watch you be in fucking samurai armor walking around your
house. Hype. But
the twink from the east.
Oh god.
Shots fucking fired.
At least I'm not the twink of the South.
Holy Christ. I think that's enough podcasting for today.
Well, on that bombshell, it's a really good film. You should check it out. And we'll catch you guys next week.
Sake! I'm just going to call you Bob.
I'm just going to call you Bob.
Are you mad because I make you wear a dress?
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. Otherwise, Mel Gibson won't stop screaming. If you like this content, make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. If you want to directly support our work, make sure to check out our Patreon. All these links are in the description below. Until the next time, Scuttlebutt out.